Hey guys, thanks for joining me for another Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia video, and today we're going to do a little bit of a unique should you pull video. So we're obviously going to be talking about should you pull for Balthier and the twins. They are the next units to come out. I believe they're going to drop on Sunday night, so that's the normal expected drop, right? But we're also going to talk about a should you pull on like a surprise banner that I expect to be dropping soon. And what this banner is going to be, it's going to be Machina and Hope. Now, this banner was not announced in the community stream, but we know that this banner is coming because, as you can see here on the Chocobo boards, there is a quest for clearing 15 quests with Machina. Now, the reason why we know this is going to be Machina and Hope is JP, around their JP timeline, what would have ended up being like our end of April, they had a campaign banner with Machina and Hope on it. So we were expecting sometimes, when they do these campaign banners, they don't fit in the normal schedule. So Global just kind of fills them in wherever they feel is the right spot. Sometimes we get the banner later than the schedule, and sometimes it's earlier than the schedule. Well, this would be an instance where we're getting the banner maybe a little bit later than we would have on schedule, but we know it's for sure coming because they never put a character on a Chocobo board unless they're going to be featured in an event, right? Now, the question is when would Machina be dropping, right? So that's the first thing I want to talk about, is just a little speculation. My gut feeling is soon, because he's been on the Chocobo board for a while, but it doesn't have to be soon necessarily. You see, this board lasts the entire Mayfair campaign, so it's 21 days. So they technically could put Machina on here. The idea is that for sure within the next 21 days, Machina has to come, because he needs to be synergy while he's still on this board, right? But if I look at the community stream slides, right, we can look at the patterns, like how many days is it between events, and where would there be an event where it makes sense to slide Machina in, right? So between Quina and Pain, we had 6 days, which has kind of been the norm, right? Between Pain and Balthier, once again, it's going to be about 6 days. Yep. Actually 7 days. So pretty darn close, right? And then between Balthier and Core, what are we looking at? Only 4 days. Like, Balthier and Core have really quick turnaround, because Balthier is going to drop on the 15th and Core is going to drop on the 19th. And then between Core and Edgar, it's going to be another 7-day split, right? So I feel like this spot kind of makes sense, because we are doing like, because Pain dropped on May 8th and Balthier's dropping on the 15th. So that is a 7-day drop off. So yeah, I feel like this is probably the likeliest spot. Literally, maybe even tonight, the night I'm recording this, they could drop it, what time is it? It's 8:30 my time. Who knows? In 20 minutes from the time I'm recording this, that banner could just show up, right? Now, they could drop it in conjunction, like they could drop it the same time as Balthier, but I don't think that they would do that. But my expectation is it could come as soon as like the night you're watching this video, like very soon. Probably as late as, I guess, the next logical spot, it would have to drop like between Core and Edgar, but that's almost too late at that point. So it's either got to be dropping now, or when Balthier drops, or like a banner in between Balthier and Core. But Balthier and Core, that's only a 4-day flip, right? So I really feel like right now is the time, like any day, I think this thing's going to drop, right? So let's go into the should you pull portion of the video here, right? And talk about, so we'll start with this banner. And this banner, to my knowledge, would just have Machina and Hope on it. Now, they could throw on a third banner character, but it would be probably something insignificant. So the main things we'd be looking at here is we'd be looking at Machina and Hope. Should you pull on this banner? Well, let's talk about the characters, right? People always talk about, I don't have Penelo, who can I substitute for Penelo? Hope is kind of like one of the more direct substitutes for Penelo. In terms of like his force charging ability and how he can ramp a gauge, he's the most similar character to Penelo. Hope and Penelo are just the two like best pure force chargers in the game, because their 15 and 35s have a lot of skill uses, and they are all force charging in their free instant turn rate, so you can spam up with these guys, right? Hope was the original like Enna Crow Cheese partner. Now Penelo is almost like a little bit better of a partner. So Hope is still very good. He's a force character, but neither of these characters, by the way, they would not be getting Echo. They would not be getting reworks. This is a straight rerun, right? So I think Hope is definitely a very good suitable support character, still very good. I would say if you're going to use a character as a non-Echo, a support character is like the best type of character you can have. I think Hope would operate pretty similar to Penelo in that you could run Hope as like a support non-Echo character. You could run Hope's Force if you wanted to, and then Echo with other characters. I think Hope is a really nice character you could pick up. Then we have Machina. Machina is pretty much a straight damage dealer. Machina's got the Spiral's Linchpin debuff. He does follow-up damage. He's a character that gets really strong follow-up attacks from his BT effect. The thing with Machina, he is high invest. Almost today, though, every character is high invest. Like, you almost want to just green everyone at this point. So for Machina, there's a lot of players that already have him built because he's been very, very good, ridiculously good. Now, he's still solid, but being that he's not getting a rework and he's not getting Echo, I don't know if Machina is the character you really want to go in on right now. And we've talked about this. This is a pretty loaded month, right, with a lot of good things coming. Being that neither of these characters are getting reworked, don't have Echo, they're both like good characters in their own right. But I don't know that this is the place you really want to throw your resources down, to be honest. I would say both the characters, while they are solid, there are better options for both roles for these characters, right? I talked about this before with some of the previous banner should you pulls, but it's like, dude, if you need a support, y'all should be getting Aerith. Like, if you haven't gotten Aerith at this point, you need to get Aerith before you pull for a character like Hope, right? The only reason you're pulling on this banner is if you're someone that pulled all the top tier characters this month, right? You got Quina, you got Aerith, you got enough resources and you want to get core, stuff like that, and you still have abundant resources and you want to flesh out your box, then that could be a reason to go in on this. But these characters are going to return when they do actually get their echoes, and that's really the time you want to pick them up, right? In general, in DFFOO, you typically don't want to go too hard on a rerun character that isn't getting a rework, unless they're really busted. Like Luna Freya would be an example of a character that when she had her first rerun, it was like, oh heck yes, you got to get that, right? But yeah, it all depends on the timing. But I would say you probably want to skip this. Now, who knows? Because it's a special campaign banner. They might give us some free multis on it. They might do some other things to tempt you on this banner. They could throw a third character on there. Who knows? There is another campaign banner that would have been around this time on JP, which is, what is it? Beatrix and Celis. Maybe they smash those together and do like a 4-character banner. That could be kind of cool. But once again, still probably skippable because all 4 of those, I don't know that any of those would be getting reworks or echo, right? So I would say probably avoid that one. Now let's talk about the other banners. So we're going to have a banner with the twins, and then we're going to have a banner with Balthier, right? Now the twins and Balthier are getting reworks and echo, so that is something to note. That is a huge buff for the twins. They definitely need that, right? So the twins banner is going to have Cyan and Rude. Rude is like a very solid, like healing, like Rude is the definition of like a heal battery character. That's literally his main role, right? Every button he presses pretty much heals and he does a lot of battery. Rude was super good on initial release because this was in an era where like getting broken was a problem, and you wanted to have a lot of battery, and Rude just made it so your party could not be broken. You were just constantly healing, constantly brave gaining. He was so nice. Rude is a character that, once again, he's just an LD only character. Even as a support character, like there are just so many better options. And without Force, without Echo, like it's gonna, like a character has to be ridiculous to be an LD only character, right? To get a spot on your team, like you've got to be like selfie level to earn a spot on a team. And Rude isn't that. Now, eventually when Rude gets his Echo, he could be a really nice pickup because like healing support battery type characters, like these are characters that do have good longevity. Now, can you use Rude in a Shinryu fight and win? Probably. It's not going to be because of Rude, though. He's going to be carried a bit, right? But he does keep your other party members safe. But yeah, you probably don't need to go crazy here on Rude. His call is really good as a healing call because you get heals on both buttons. So if you just want a really good heal call, sure, maybe pick up the LD, but I wouldn't stress about it. Cyan, unfortunately, is a character that hasn't really been impressive in this game, and it's unfortunate because I like Cyan, I like Final Fantasy VI, right? Cyan's big thing is that a lot of his attacks are just defense ignoring, but other than that, he's pretty much just a straight damage dealer, and with a character like Quina about, defense ignoring basically is useless, like it's pointless, because Quina just turns every character into basically it's not necessarily like a 1-for-1 trade, like treating it as defense ignoring, because you won't Brave Shave, right, with Quina, but you're going to get the max output damage, which is one of the main ideas of defense ignore, right? Defense ignore just is not a good mechanic right now. It's not a valuable one. There are just so many busted characters in the game that just don't care about defense. They can get around that in different ways. Cyan just doesn't have value right now. LD only character as a damage dealer. You're never going to use this guy, so don't worry about Cyan. Some people like his call because his LD is very strong. But even with how like strong his LD was on release, it's kind of like Ida LD, where it's like, oh yeah, I can do like 700k damage, maybe a mil, something like that. But it's like you can just bring any modern character's LD and they're going to do that damage at this point. So Cyan's another character, you just kind of got to wait for his upgrade. So definitely don't go in for Cyan or Rude. Now the twins, they are getting Echo and they are getting a rework. So if you like them, they're going to be really good. And for those of you unfamiliar, the twins, they're a really heavy damage dealer. They're going to be really good. I think they're going to compete with Squall, to be honest. The problem with twins is they are heavily reliant on multi-target fights, which is kind of similar to why I don't like Squall as much. But Squall can at least do good damage in single target if you need him to. Like, he still does really good damage. The twins get heavily hindered against single enemies. A lot of their buffs, their auras, everything scales on how many enemies they are. Dude, if it's a 3-target fight, I don't know if the twins can be beat. Like, the twins are ridiculous. But how many 3-target fights are there in the game? So it's a unit that, like, you can invest in. They're going to do really good damage. They're going to be crazy. But there's only a handful of fights that they're going to be that effective on. I would say this. In a 3-target fight, they are dummy busted like ridiculous. In a 2-target fight, like, they're solid to, like, really good. And in a 1-target fight, they're kind of bad. So, like, do you want to invest in a character that you can only use on some fights? Or would you rather invest in a character like Core or Aerith, who just are ageless units that work on any team comp that you can use in any fight pretty much, right? Like, those are the characters y'all really want to invest in. So I'm going to say, unless you're a ridiculous fan of the twins and you want to have that AoE specialist, then go for it. But otherwise, I would say, yeah, the twins are definitely like a no-go for me. The other thing with the twins is they carry like every element in the game in their attacks, which can actually be bad because if an enemy, it's easy for them to get elemental locked out. They do enchant the party for a bunch of elements too, which can be good, but also bad because there's elemental lockout. And their FR depends on you doing a lot of elemental attacks at once. So yeah, this is a unit that can get locked out, whether it be due to single target or like elemental stuff. Like, it's just a character you're not going to be able to use a ton. So I would be careful about twins. All right, next one. We got Balthier, Agrius, and Jack. Jack is pretty much just like a nothing character at this point. He's, even on release, like, he was just okay. But he's an LD only damage dealer, and that's it. He enables the party to do more brave damage. His call, just to put it in perspective, his call enables the party to do more brave damage. When it first dropped, he was one of the best calls in the game. It was pretty much like him and Kurasame, Amidatelian, like, those were like my main 3 calls for a really long time. The problem is brave damage just isn't important anymore. Characters can hit brave damage just fine. We've got rainbow numbers, we've got Queena, we've got brave gain strats. Like, we just don't need Jack call anymore. It's a call I've never used anymore. So I really think there's kind of like zero value to this guy. Not to be mean to the poor guy, but right now, Jack is definitely not a guy you're going to be using. Agrius, on the other hand, I would say, if I'm looking at these banners for like the side characters, I might actually like Agrius the best. Agrius has some very good utility. Now, as an LD only character, right, her damage isn't going to be crazy, but her utility is actually quite good. She has paralyzing in her kit. She has silence in her kit, so she's got a lot of those shutdown mechanics, which is very good. So I would say if you're desperate for like shutdown mechanics to stop the enemies from attacking, you could go with Agrius, but I still don't think you should go out of your way to get her. Just because as a non-FR Echo, once again, it's hard to find a spot on a team for a character that's not carrying FR or Echo. Like I said, you got to be doing something crazy. And that being said, if you got Pain, like, Pain does some of the lockout stuff, right? If you run Pain and debuff roll, you're going to be HP silencing them, and Pain's doing way more damage, has better Echo, all that stuff, has Force, whatever. So Agrius, even though I'm saying she's like probably the best of the side characters, still not something you want to go out of your way to get, right? Then we have Balthier. Now, Balthier is a character that I think a lot of players are going to be tempted by, and I would not blame you for summoning for this guy, because one is, so Balthier, a lot of people have a sour taste on Balthier because he was the year 3 anniversary character and was really not up to standard compared to other anniversary characters. I think he was really good, but the problem was I think they dropped him at C70, and it was like right as C80 came out or was coming out, and they didn't give him C80, which was a big bummer, but they made him like really good as a C70 character. But Balthier, he's basically like a buff debuff manager. So he kind of does some of those pain things where like he can take buffs off the enemies. He can remove your own debuffs. He actually, with this 3rd anniversary like upgrade that he got some really good auras at the time, like very good competitive auras. Well, now if you get this guy's FR, BT, max him out, he's going to have some of those really good auras. So he serves a lot of roles, right? Like he's kind of like a support character. He's also like a cleanser, debuffer, like all that stuff, right? He does all that cool stuff. The big thing is with this rework in his BT, he gets very powerful follow-ups, which actually make him like a really competitive damage dealer. So what you're getting with Balthier now is a character that has a bunch of this cool utility stuff, but is actually really carrying some good damage, which it's very powerful, right? Like it's a good thing to have, because normally like your top tier DPS characters, they're mainly just damage without much else. Balthier is doing a ton for the party and then is still carrying damage. So Balthier is going to be really good. Unfortunately for me, I just don't have the resources to pick this guy up. If I get really lucky, I'll tell you guys this right now though. If I get lucky and I get his BT, I'm going to instantly green this guy, and I might even blue him, because I think he is going to be very, very good. Balthier, the only negative thing I can say is that there's just better stuff around him to pull on, which is the only reason I would say not to pull. I would say there really isn't a ton of value in any of these side characters right now, even for calls. Just not a lot there, right? So if you're a big Balthier fan, or you like the idea, and maybe wait to see the character guide to see how he performs. I definitely, like, I'm not saying by any means is he bad. I think he's going to be looking really good. I think his damage is going to be good. I love his utility. I love what he does. It's just a character that, you know, I'm going to prioritize core. I'm going to prioritize Aerith, Quina, like stuff like that, right? We've got Astos coming out, I think, I want to say end of July, maybe early August, but he's going to be like ridiculous busted. Like, and my resources are low, right? If I had access, if I was one of these people that have like 1,000,000 gems, which I know there's people out there, I would 100% pull for Balthier if I had 1,000,000 gems. I just don't have 1,000,000 gems to do it. So I'm personally in a position where I can't just expend on every banner. And I come from the perspective on these should you pulls for players who are kind of going banner to banner, assuming you can only like pity 1 or 2 characters a month. I got to make my recommendations on that. So Balthier's only real flaw is that he's just surrounded by greater, better characters, but Balthier is still ridiculous. So like I said, I wouldn't blame you if you summon, but I think between this banner and this like mystery Machina Hope banner, I think it's all actually skippable. I would just save, wait for core, go ahead and get that, and then wait for better things that are coming. So anyways, you guys can let me know if you're going to pull on these banners. Let me know what you think of these characters. Thanks for watching. We'll catch y'all on the next one.